We are back for episode 28 of the Auld Triangle, and I am a real person, and the lads have confirmed that this weekend. We are at SPG, we're at the National Irish MMA Championships, lads, and it's great to see you in person.
It is brilliant to be here. Firstly, so this is our first live podcast that we've ever done together, so bear with us if there's any audio issues or technical difficulties or anything. We'll do our best here.
Blame Andy.
Blame Ian, don't blame Andy. But it's fucking brilliant to see us in person. Caoilte and I have seen each other a good few times now at events.
No, I'm sure, yeah.
But Ian, the King of Canada is over, and we're here together.
Kilkenny, no?
Yeah.
Kilkenny first of all, yeah, definitely the King of Kilkenny first of all. But no, it's great to be back and get to go up and meet everyone in person, and it's been a great weekend so far. We still have a couple of fights to go on in the Nationals there a little bit later on. We'll probably pop on and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the podcast as well, but we're going to get right into it here. And I think the biggest news in Irish MMA at the minute is that of Danni McCormack's win in Invicta FC 52 against Valeska Machado. She took home the Invicta Strawweight Championship. She also became the first Irish woman to take home an Invicta title as well. And if you were writing this, lads, in a storybook, you probably couldn't have written it any better. The way the fight went on, the build up to it, the story, the comeback, the interviews after, it was just all perfect, really, Caoilte, wasn't it?
It was incredible. It was a historic moment, but I guess just everything surrounding it. I think I tweeted actually that it was like a Rocky story and a fairy tale all built into one. It was one of those moments. It was just incredible, and the emotion afterwards, the way it played out, as you were saying there. The comeback is just something else, and absolutely delighted for Danni. She had her moment, she got her moment, and hopefully now she can kick on from there as well.
It was such an emotional fight, wasn't it? Like the highs and the lows throughout the fight. An amazing achievement. Like I was away in the lead up to it, so I was feeling like a little bit disconnected, and I was really thinking, I was like, this is actually a huge deal, because of the history as well. Initially, Aisling Daly fought there all the way back in Invicta FC3 in 2012. There wasn't another Irish woman until 2015 with Catherine Costigan, and then there was this gap until last year where Shauna finally got the first Irish win for an Irish woman. But for Danni to go in there and claim the title in just insane fashion, the outpouring of emotion, at the end of round one, I'm thinking, fuck, like this is just not going her way. And I'm sure she spoke to you, she's thinking the same,
yeah.
Or she had the belief, but it wasn't going well. And then to do what she did was just insane. The outpouring of emotion, talking about her mom and the self-doubt, wanting to prove everything to herself. It was incredible. Reminded me, I think it's one of the best comebacks in Irish MMA history. It was reminiscent of Cathal Pendred and Mike King in Dublin.
Yeah.
It was just fantastic.
It was unreal, and look, I got the chance to speak with her yesterday. Yesterday as we were recording this, whenever this goes out, but it'll probably be up on the SevereMMA YouTube channel. It's just a fantastic interview where we go through the whole kind of phase from the preparation to the before the fight to the fight itself, and she broke it down very well. And like you said it, Andy, it was just a comeback for the ages. And for me watching it, it was like real old school for me, because normally if I'm in Canada I'm watching that at prime time. It's at 6 o'clock in the evening. I was up at fucking 3 o'clock in the morning. Over here is late at night. That kind of adds to the intimacy of it over here as well, I think, when we
did a swap. I was like your time zone, you were mine.
Yeah, but it was just unreal. And it was like, look, when she got dropped, it can happen, but I was like, oh shit, and then she was up and it wasn't. But it was the second time when I really thought, oh no, this is not good, and we were getting flashbacks of the Stephanie Page fight. But I mean, unquestionable heart, Caoilte. That's the way I labelled that performance there, and it's a kind of a great way to explain it too, isn't it?
Yeah, just to get dropped, to bite down the gum shield, implement the game plan, and just come out with a victory like that. Just incredible. An amazing show of heart, and I guess and the skill as well. you could say it was like maybe it's not the cleanest performance, obviously getting dropped, but I guess you could say best performance, a title winning performance. So you could call it that as well. Thought she was fantastic. So. Yeah, as I said, incredible. It's
like when you get dropped like that, and I kind of said it to her when I was talking to her as well, lads, it's like, we see what it does to you physically when you get dropped, you land down on the campus, but what it can do to you mentally as well. I thought Danni just proved that she has that mental toughness when, I had talked to her time and time again where there was those doubts, like after those 2 fights and talks of maybe packing it in for a split second and stuff like that, but, she came back and she won every single other round after that, clearly, and the open scoring kind of it would have, like, if there was no open scoring. Danni was glad yesterday. She was saying that she was glad for her that there was open scoring, because it kind of made her and probably built on her performance, knowing that she took the next round and then she built on that and took the next round after that. And we kind of knew as well, but geez, it would have been real edge of seat stuff if there was no open scoring for us at the end of the day, really, wouldn't there?
Sean Sheehan's gonna hate us for saying this, but I think it added to it a bit, and like even Danni said how she liked it as well. But it was a different one. For one, look in hindsight now, look back, I think, do you know what? That's actually. I guess it was quite good for that one because we got to know what was kind of happening.
Yeah.
But look, unbelievable, and do you think we should have open scoring everywhere now?
Oh, I don't know.
Do we open that conversation up?
Oh God, that's a conversation for another day, I think. Anyway, but look, we'll move on to Shauna Bannon, who also fought, and then we'll maybe talk about what's next after that. But like Shauna Bannon fought on the card, and there was no real comeback required in this fight because, in my opinion, Andy, it was Shauna Bannon's best performance inside of a cage. I would even say best performance inside of a cage, amateur and professional, to be honest, you know what I mean? And we've seen huge growth in her. Look, we know she's a great stand-up striker, and we know she's been developing her grappling, but when you see someone coming in there, it's the wrinkles in the game, the patience, and the feints, when the fight went down, we've seen the elbows. Yeah, we've seen the elbows.
Keep going, sorry. I'm after walking off shot here just to check the levels.
yeah.
We're winging it here.
This is live viewing here.
We're trying to figure out, do we put it down here? Do we put it up by our mouth? So we'll figure it out.
But no, like, I was really impressed with Shauna. Obviously she had spent time in the oxygen tent for weeks before the fight, and the cardio showed that it was holding up. She looked fresh at the end of the fight as well. Really, really good performance by Shauna, taking out someone who has fought UFC caliber opponents as well. So I mean, she ticked off all the boxes in that fight.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was her best performance to date. I thought the variety of her shots, the venom in them, the body kicks, I thought were ferocious. I can't pick a fault in Shauna's performance. I thought it was, when she's someone who is climbing towards a title shot and wants to establish herself at the top of a division in a promotion, that's the type of performance that you want to go out there and put on. And to do it, as you said, at altitude, it felt like she was growing. We've talked about the last fight that Shauna had where it was a rematch, and she was trying to go out there, and it's a tough situation to be in where you're trying to better your previous performance, and you're almost, even in success, you're almost set up for failure.
Yeah.
This one, it looked to me like she took a giant leap forward from her skill set, the way she put it on, and it's just a brilliant, a great night for Irish women's MMA, wasn't it?
It was.
Out in Denver.
And like, Caoilte, you've seen Shauna like from her very early stages of her amateur career as well, and it's clear that like what I want to see in fighters and what I'm looking to see in fighters is those leaps per performance, and I think we can say the same about Danni McCormack as well in the main event, making those leaps and kind of adding little wrinkles to their games as well. And like Shauna did all that in that fight against Misha Grusander at Invicta 52.
Yeah, like took a massive step forward, and like from looking back from Shauna's fights when she was an amateur fighting in the IMMAFs and looking at those performances and how she's kind of come on since then is just incredible. Like the speed that she's developed that and kind of progressed her career at is just insane. So it's fantastic to see, and she kind of, you know, she's going to keep kicking on now to beat Mina Crusander, another IMMAF one. So I was actually, I was actually delighted about that. You had 2 IMMAF medalists going head to head at Invicta. But one thing I guess worth noting in this is the opportunities that they're getting with Invicta at the moment, because as you were saying, the gap between the last time we saw an Irish fighter in Invicta and now we've 2 regularly competing and a champion, and there's talks of, I guess, a Dublin show and everything. The opportunities are coming around thick and fast, and like, wow, it's incredible. And you know, hopefully we get more, we see more signed, and we might even get a show out of it.
You never know. All the talk has been like, and I mean, before we move on to what's next, I think like for anyone who might be new on the scene or not that familiar with Invicta, I think it has to be said the magnitude of Invicta FC as a promotion, all the great fighters that have gone through Invicta in the past, and that is a legitimate world title that Danni McCormack has as well, and it's absolutely fantastic that we have her at the top of the tree as well, and that we have Shauna Bannon riding the coattails and waiting in the wings as well, and let's talk about what's next, because the big talking point is what is next for Danni McCormack, what's next for Shauna Bannon. We know what Shauna wants. Shauna wants the title shot. I think Danni, in speaking to her, is working on a couple of options, possible UFC, you know, possible contender series, possible that she's going to go and defend the title maybe later on this year in Ireland as well. And it's a very interesting story, and one of probably the hottest talking points in Irish MMA right now.
Yeah, 100%. It's undeniable. Look, whenever there's 2 Irish fighters who are, not, you know, on a collision course or in and around the same space, there's going to be talk about the possibility of them squaring off, and that brings its own unique excitement to a fight. Now, I think Danni's made it very clear to you that her focus is solely on the UFC, and that's the path that she wants. And to be fair, you know, that's what Danni should want. Like, Danni should be wanting the UFC. She mentioned, you know, she's 33 years old. She doesn't know how long she has left in MMA. She has the title now, and as you said, a legitimate world title, like the likes of Amanda Nunes, Chris Cyborg, like the likes of Aaron Blanchfield. Like, there's so many fighters who've come through Invicta. Graham Boylan was talking the other day about Cage Warriors being the draft. Well, on the women's side, Invicta is the version of the NFL draft,
and have been since 10 or plus years now, to be real, like, you know.
Absolutely. So, you know, logically, you win the Invicta title, you should be looking to go up to the UFC. That's the way Danni McCormack should be thinking. Now, that doesn't mean that if this fight was to go ahead, it's a humongous fight in Irish MMA. Like, it's 2 Irish women fighting for a world title, and it sounds like the promotion are interested in it and they want it in Dublin. If that fight goes ahead, like, it's the type of fight that everyone can relate to. They've two amazing stories, very different stories. And I just think a lot of people will be excited. It's hard not to be interested to, like, there'll be the conversation. The same with Sinead and Leah. Leah as well. You know what I mean? And it's tough. Like, I can definitely see the perspective of the bad thing about it is someone has to lose. Exactly. I think that for, you know, looking at that fight, if Shauna were to lose, you know, she's what, 6-0 now? 5-0? 5-0
now.
I don't think a loss puts her back a whole lot. I think that, you know, she can rebuild again. Danni's 33. She has losses in her career already. It might set her back a little bit more. So there's definitely, I could see her perspective where there's more of a risk there for her at the point she's in her career. Outside of, you know, I want to see 2 women in the UFC. I want to see 2 Irish women in the UFC. I cannot lie, if this fight does happen, I'll be very excited. I'll be very intrigued.
I think it's hard. It's hard not to be excited for a fight like this. Like, I mean, Caoilte, the magnitude of this fight is that Invicta FC, for the first time in their history, are going to bring a show outside of the US, and they've picked Ireland as the destination. I think that tells its own story about what that fight could mean.
Everyone wants to come to Ireland at the moment, though. Look, you got PFL, Bellator come frequently. Octagon are looking at it. KSW may come back at some stage as well. So it's a no-brainer they want to come to Ireland, and now they've got the perfect opportunity. And I guess they see it as a really, like, the perfect fight as well. having two Irish women against each other, it would create a lot of hype. It would sell out so quickly, I could imagine. But then, so from that perspective, you can see, it might make sense business-wise and a good entry to the European market. But then, if we look at it from, we want two women in the UFC, we want the UFC to come back to Dublin. And for the UFC to come back to Dublin, we need as many Irish fighters in the UFC as possible.
100%.
So, in my opinion, I'd love to see Danni move on now. There's, I think, it's 50% or maybe just under 50% of Invicta strawweight champions go straight to the UFC, and then others have only had to defend once, I think it is. But the record, she could be the next. She could be the next up, and if so, I'd love to see Shauna fight for the title. There's plenty of options. So, regardless, so I think if Danni does go to the UFC, I'd love to see Shauna fight for a title in Dublin as well. I think there can't be any doubt with the level of performance that Shauna put in last time, the run that she's on. You cannot deny her the next shot at the title in Invicta. Whether that's Danni that is there or whether Danni moves on and goes to the UFC, what it should happen is that Shauna Bannon should be fighting, and they're talking of the National Basketball Arena, and that would be you're talking about momentous occasions, and for her, what it would mean, I talked to Shauna a little bit earlier on, and she said, she won many tournaments over there in the basketball arena as well, and I mean, it just would come full circle for her, and it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of happens with all of that. But it's great to see two powerful women at the top in the strawweight division in Invicta, and both fantastic representatives for Irish MMA as well. We're very, very lucky, and I think we should move on. I think we covered that a little bit. I was going to say a little bit too much. I don't think you can cover that too much, but I think we should move on just because we're going to try and save some time here. But Danni's win, Shauna's performance, Danni's win, the biggest news in Irish MMA right now, and it's fantastic. Check out my interviews with both of those women on SevereMMA.com. They should be up by now, or in or around when this episode of the Auld Triangle comes out. Two great interviews, both of them speaking open and honestly, and I hope you enjoy them and everything like that. Andy?
No, I just wanted to say, just because this is our podcast, it's a kind of opportunity to speak as well. There was some talk after, about when I reached out to Shannon App about this fight and the possibility, and I'd asked her, could we see this? And when I'm asking that, it's not, hey, can we please see this fight? It's, is this a possibility? And there was some back and forth online from people of just about, it seemed like almost an insinuation that's almost disrespectful. The reason why these questions are asked is because it is news, is because it is a big deal, the possibility of two Irish women, and it's not because it's Shauna and Danni, it's not just let's pit the Irish against each other, it's two women at the top of the division in a promotion where a title has just been contended for, and the natural question is what's next. So just to put that to bed, that's all that is. So we can move on now. I just wanted to say my piece there. That's it.
He had to get that off his chest, and that's fair. It's a fair point altogether. Look at opinions are opinions, and everybody has the right to have one as well. But yeah, very well said, Andy. We shall move on to Ian Garry, who had another comeback. We're talking about comebacks. It's a big topic of this episode, lads, and this was another comeback from Ian. I think we saw the first chink in his armour that we've ever seen against Keenan Song, UFC 286, but you know what, he bounced back fantastically as well. What I liked about that performance, first of all, I think it has to be said, lads, with Ian, I think I would be fairly, it's hard to say about unknowns, right? It's hard to kind of say with Ian, but I feel if he made that mistake against a higher caliber opponent, that he might not have been let off the hook. But look, that's the joys of fighting competition. You never know what's going to happen, but what we need to focus on is what actually did happen, is because he recovered. And he's not going to be able to make those mistakes, and he knows that himself. He actually went into the corner and he said that himself in between rounds. So that for me, accepting acknowledgement for that mistake is a good kind of a learning curve for him, and it's a good positive sign for Ian Garry as well. But what we seen after, lads, was I think the finishing sequence was probably up there with the best. Like I think as a whole, I think Ian probably has had better fights as a whole. I think to call it his best performance after getting dropped, I would still label Jack Grant as his best performance of his career so far. I think the best that we've seen Ian Garry look was in that final sequence. It was in that finishing combination. It was when he hurt him and he went after him and he dropped him and then he destroyed him with ground and pound, and it was an absolutely ferocious finish, Andy.
I was blown away by it. Like, I think the bit I actually do think in a weird way, I think I said that it was his best performance, in that I know he just showed me something that I hadn't seen before. Maybe that's what I'm kind of clinging on to, is that the fact that he was, he got caught with that big, I think it was a big left hand from Keenan Song, and it was in a moment where Ian was going to the, he was doing beautiful work up against the cage, going to the body, coming back up top, and then for him to recover, and not just recover but come out stronger. I felt that he grew into that fight in rounds 2 and 3, and he wasn't afraid to go back. I think Sean might have talked about this on the SevereMMA podcast as well, where he wasn't afraid to go back to those combinations and be like, okay, I've got caught here, but I can fine tune my precision, my timing, and he was flowing in and out of the pocket, in and out of range to land his shots and get out of the way. So where he got caught that first time in the first round and got put down, he was making sure, it was as if he was in real time had closed that gap in his game. It was reminiscent of one of his earlier fights against George McManus, where he was just ripping shots. And I think at the end of the day, he's come away with that fight, not just with a win, but with another finish. It was his first finish since his UFC debut, his 7th finish in his career in 11 fights. He's undefeated, 11-0. And while there's definitely a vulnerability there that we've seen, there's also, I came out more, that's probably the most excited I've been off the back of one of his UFC fights.
I would definitely say that. I'll lead you in for a second. I would definitely say that too, even though I would say it's not his best performance because he got hurt, right? But what I seen after that gives me greater excitement than I've ever seen after any one of his other fights. Caoilte, look, you're going to make those mistakes, and in the UFC, small little mistakes like that are going to get capitalized on as well.
Yeah, so I think, I kind of see your point of how it could be his best performance and seeing it as best performance. I would kind of credit the Jack Grant fight as his best performance today, but I think that one showed us like how he's kind of progressing, and like if he made that at a higher level, he might pay for it, but it just shows the path he's on at the moment, and it kind of shows the flashes of what could be, because a lot of fighters could take that shot and they might not get up, and even at any level of the UFC. So we just saw him take a massive shot, get up, improve, and then finish his opponent. It was incredible. So if he can do that, his ceiling just seems it doesn't seem like he has one, it's exciting. So it's a big year for him now, I reckon. Big year for him. Got this upcoming fight now, which I reckon we're going to speak about.
Do you want to jump into that? Just to finish off on it, I think as they say on the streets, he's got that dog in him, and we saw that when, because it takes.
See the memes flying around on Twitter afterwards.
Yeah. Look we were going to talk it a little bit about it later on, but while we're on Ian Garry, I think
let's just do it now. Yeah.
Let's just do it now, because Daniel Rodriguez is next for Ian Garry, UFC Fight Night event on it's in May 13th as well. So he was looking for a shot at that April card in Miami. He didn't get that, and I think that's a kind of a good thing, Andy, ain't it? Because it gives him that little bit more time to kind of recover after getting, because he was hurt. He was hurt in that first round. Yeah. He recovered well, but he was hurt, and I think allowing yourself to kind of get your bones about you. He's back over in the UK now again. He's going to kind of start fresh and get himself prepared. You don't want to be throwing yourself right into the firing line again after getting clipped like that. I
don't see, I know Ian was probably right, let's go to Miami. He's obviously training in Florida at the moment. I don't think there's any need to rush in that soon, and he's already booked for May, so we're already at the end of March here. That'll come around so quickly. There was no need, whether it was the card in Miami or the card here in May. I'm not actually sure where this one's on, but I see Johnny Walker and Anthony Smith are headlining the card. So, from an Irish perspective, we're here in SBG Ireland. Johnny Walker trains here. Two Irish guys. We'll claim Johnny Walker.
Johnny
Shawnee
Walker's
Schuler,
Irish now, definitely.
Shawnee Schuler.
Does Mandy Bottom train here as well?
She did for a spell, but I wasn't sure if John was in her corner the last time out. This was a fight actually that was supposed to happen on an earlier card this year against Ji Young Kim, and it didn't happen, so they've moved it here. So I'm not actually quite sure if Mandy still has ties with SBG.
But this is I think this is a fantastic next matchup for Ian, right? I mean, Daniel Rodriguez, we've seen him. He's been previously ranked in the UFC. He's fought the likes of Neil Magny. Obviously, he didn't get the win in that fight. But this is that next step. So it's Ian's not fighting a ranked opponent here, but he's one fight removed from a ranked opposition. I would say he wins this, he's going to be fighting top 10, top 15 opponents next, would be my guess. A very exciting matchup. The toughest test of Ian Garry's career by a considerable margin is coming up, and we're really good. We saw something new. We found out a little bit about Ian Garry. As he said, he's got that dog in him. He can dig deep when it matters most.
You have to say it right, Andy. He's got that dog.
He's got that dog, and I tell you what, he may need that dog against Daniel Rodriguez, because he brings it.
Yeah, he definitely does. D-Rod's best performance was against Li Jingliang. It was a split decision, but Li Jingliang is a really good fighter. I think stylistically, Neil Magny knew where he could get him, and obviously Neil Magny is a good grappler, and he got him down and into that dash choke. Stylistically for Ian, you would expect D-Rod to kind of stand and bang with him. That's what he wants to do. What I'm interested to see is that if we see a little bit of a mix-up from Ian Garry in this fight, Caoilte, might we see a little bit of grappling here? Because, D-Rod is very, very durable. I don't think he's been finished by knockout in his career. Not at all, no. So, Ian Garry could be going out there looking to be the first guy to finish D-Rod by knockout. He's been obviously submitted by Neil Magny, but, if things are kind of even enough on the feet, might we see Ian Garry take the fight down? Like we're talking about Jack Grant, we've seen a lot of grappling from Ian Garry there, so it'd be interesting to see what he brings to the table.
We haven't. I don't think we've seen, his grappling as much in the UFC as we would have seen it in Cage Warriors, or in particular that Jack Grant fight. But we've seen how good he can be, and Jack Grant's a very good grappler. So I think that just shows the level he's at as well. Potentially, yeah, and. He's been training. He was training over at what's it called now, Kilcliff.
Yeah, Kilcliff, and he's back over in the UK now, I believe.
Yeah, but that time in Kilcliff, spending I think with the likes of Gilbert Burns and all them would be out there. So you're training with high level grapplers and guys who
Shavkat Rakhmanov is the name.
Christ,
what I mean? He's been doing rounds with him. That's some fantastic experience.
I forgot about that one.
Usman's been down. He took multiple gyms, but Usman's been down there and trains there sometimes too. So there's so many. Robbie Lawler.
Yeah. With the moving around, Caoilte, would that, I like seeing fighters going from gym to gym, but will there come a time where we'll need to see a little bit of stability from Ian Garry and kind of he's been in Miami, he was in London, and now he's working with Renegade and with Leon Edwards there as well. It hasn't proven to be a bad decision yet.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I was about to say the same thing. I was if it's working for now and it seems to be going in the right direction, he's active as well, which helps this process. So no, I unless something goes wrong, or I guess he feels the need to settle down the one gym, keep doing what you're doing type thing. I don't see why not. I like how he looks in the cage at the moment. He's fantastic. So it seems to be working for him, and maybe even more to come.
You got to think, Andy, right? If he beats Daniel Rodriguez, it's got to set him up with a fight in the top 15. Maybe would we be thinking that, or with a veteran? We kind of try to play matchmaker with Ian Garry nearly every time we bring him up.
Just because it's good crack. It's just good crack. This is why it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting to have someone in the UFC to be well, where can this guy go? Because we all believe he can be capable of great things. So it's if he beats this guy, who's next? And then if he beats that guy, who's next? I'm looking at number 15 right now, Michel Pereira, and just thinking that could be a fucking unreal.
That would be a
great crack fight. That could be brilliant. And Michel Pereira is a wild man. So Ian, what I would say about a couple of Ian's opponents in the UFC, they've been tentative. They've sat back a little bit, and the last fight, Ian came out of his shell a lot. The fight, the Darian Weeks fight, and there was another one, I can't remember the name now, where they weren't presenting a lot, and Ian kind of, Ian will counter strike a lot. Michelle Pereira's just going to.
Well, I think Daniel Rodriguez is going to do that as well. And, and Caoilte did have the rankings up there, and the mouse landed on one fighter there, and that was Michael Chiesa. And for me, what we have seen is Ian kind of being, welcoming fighting these stand-up strikers and is happy to stand. Chiesa is going to want to try and take him down. I'd like to see that wrestling test come fairly soon, before the end of the year, to be honest. Like we go back to the days of Conor, and he was like, even Ian, I think, said it after the fight himself, Caoilte. It was like, Conor never fought a wrestler. So, like, it's not that Ian is not wanting to fight these guys, it's just that he hasn't been matched up with them yet. So, I mean, very, very interesting times for Ian Garry right now, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the D-Rod fight. Moving on to more kind of regional, I guess, European MMA, LFL happened.
Just in case, just to cover our arses here, the camera just decided to stop recording. So if we just cut off like a moment ago in a segment and we've just said moving on, that's why. So just bear with us.
100%.
I think the national championships must have kicked off a bit early here, because I heard a horn there, so we better get going here. We better get going,
is right. LFL happened over recently. We had Andreas Binder, we had Ryan Spillane, and we had Anderson Castro that fought on that card as well, and we had a mixed bag of results in that as well. Obviously, we had Andreas Binder, who put on a very, very good performance against Chris Stringer in that fight. We had Anderson Castro, who there was a little bit of shit talk and stuff, Caoilte, before that as well. Did you see all of that kind of stuff with Anderson and his opponent? He was giving him a little bit of jip before the fight, but Anderson Castro really went out there and he put on a good performance. I'm just trying to bring the card up here. We'll bring the card up. But let's talk about Ryan Spillane. He didn't have the night he wanted to have. I mean, he had a good start again, but as fortunes started to change for him, Andy, as the fight went on, and he ended up getting finished by TKO.
Yeah, look, it seems to be a little bit of a trend, unfortunately, for Ryan at the moment. Obviously, he's fighting in that heavyweight Grand Prix, but another probably disappointing one for him and the team. Be interesting to see where he goes next. I don't have a whole lot to say about it, really.
No, it's very unlucky. Marina Kiapor, Kiapor, as I should say. Yeah, that's a tough one, isn't it? He got the win, round 3 TKO on Ryan Spillane. So that's a tough one for Ryan to come back to as well. Like we talked about Anderson Castro as well, who there was like two cards in a row here, wasn't there, lads?
Yeah, it was back. It was successive nights. So we obviously have Anderson Castro on the second night, and Andreas Binder as well. I thought Andreas Binder to get a win over someone like Chris Stringer is significant. I think it's a veteran name, a guy who's been around the Irish MMA scene a long time, and in the UK, and to have that name on your, it's a next step as Andreas continues to progress in his career. I saw himself and his management were calling for maybe a shot on the Bellator Dublin card coming up in September. So I'd like to see Andreas on one of these on the likes of a PFL, there's so many cards coming to Dublin now. I want to see him on one of the bigger shows. That'd be great to see.
Obviously Nathan Kelly defeated Zachary Hicks at the PFL Challenger Series, and Caoilte, it was another unbelievable performance from Nathan Kelly. Like I tweeted after the fight, like, Nathan Kelly is a legit problem in the featherweight division in PFL right now, and like this one was, look at against Ben Ellis, it was a little bit wild. We had wild exchanges and everything like that. A lot more composed from Nathan Kelly this time, and he just dominated Zachary Hicks.
Unbelievable. I guess the one thing that I took away from that, or that baffled me about that, how the hell did he not get a contract? Or is it contract or into mental? I don't understand that. I think
it happened because they did the voting at the middle of the night Irish time. So
true,
there was a fan vote that happened, and I think an expert panel that voted on it as well. But like, you're kind of fighting a losing battle when it's like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning Irish time, and none of the fans can vote in for that. So look at I think that Nathan Kelly signed his own contract with that performance and the performance before that. I think we're going to see him fighting on PFL again. We'll probably see him fighting on the European series as well a little bit later on. And I think, I think the world is his oyster now. I think with Nathan Kelly, there's a chance for him, I think, to kind of go and transcribe into the regular season. I think if he gets onto the European series a little bit later on, I know he had eyes on that Berlin card. I know he's going to have eyes on the Dublin card as well. And I mean, if he picks up 2 wins there, we could see him fighting stateside next year.
Oh, without a shadow of doubt.
Again on stateside. This was also stateside.
But more regularly in regular season. I'm actually I'm shocked the fact he isn't going to be. But what's that now? 3 finishes in a row, 2 in PFL, and the way that he got the head in for that arm triangle choke. It just looks so smooth. He made it look so easy. It's like because he's obviously a black belt. It's like a black belt playing with a white belt. Yeah. There. He made it look so easy. It was incredible. It
was funny. They were going to go to Tyron Woodley on the broadcast, and Tyron Woodley was like, "Yeah." He was doing real, and then he's just like, he did it so easily. Woodley was just like looking there with his mouth open. He didn't even know what to say. It was hilarious. But no, like Nathan has been on with us on the Auld Triangle recently, and just a great lad and a fantastic fighter, and riding the crest of a wave right now, Andy.
Yeah, his 6th first round finish in his career. So
crazy.
All of his wins, bar 1, have come in the first round. To your point about fighting later in the year as well, I was listening to Dan Hardy on with Pizzi on his new podcast The Crack, and he was saying like that's the likes of a Nathan Kelly. It's a no-brainer. Dan Hardy's taken over the European operations, so he knows his stuff. He's going to manage.
Good lad to have there, isn't it?
And I think he's doing the matchmaking also for the European side. So he will definitely. I'll be completely shocked if Nathan Kelly's not on the card. In addition, we're an Irish MMA podcast. This is good for Irish MMA.
Brilliant.
It sounds like he's going to be looking for other Irish, amateurs who are just turning pro. He seems to have his finger on the pulse of the scene. So if you're an amateur and you're about, you're turning pro, or you've just gone pro, or you've a couple of fights, it sounds like there's opportunity there in that PFL Dublin card at the end of the year, which is brilliant. Brilliant for everyone.
It is brilliant. It'd be a fantastic way to finish out the year as well. That card will be happening in December. Look at Ger Harris wasn't as lucky in cage fight series as his debut. Andy, just came up against Florian Stan, who kind of just dominated him a little bit in the grappling exchanges. What did you think of that fight?
So I wouldn't say that he dominated him in the grappling exchanges, but I scored it for Stan. I know there was some talk after about the judge's decision. I thought the first round was incredibly close. I thought Stan just edged it.
Yeah.
I thought the second round was a clear enough round for Stan, and then I thought that Ger won the third. He dropped him in the third. Look, close enough fight. I think that what I really liked seeing, and I say this many times, I'm no technical expert, but what I really liked seeing was Ger threatening submit. He looked like he was threatening at all times, but I think what was not working in his favour in this fight was he was looking to threaten positions, but then he would end up on bottom, and then he didn't seem close.
Kind of like if you're jumping for a guillotine, if you don't kind of get it locked in, you're going to leave yourself on your back.
Yeah. Whereas in the third round, he did a great job. I can't remember the specific exchange, but he did a great job where he was threatening for a position that got him to, I think it was the back, or he got to the dominant position there. It just looked a little bit flat in comparison to previous performances. I don't think taking a loss at this point in your career is necessarily a bad thing. No. I think it'll be a learning moment, I imagine, for Ger. Still incredibly excited to see what's next for him, but I'm sure he'll be disappointed in how it went. I did see in the lead up to the fight that I'm pretty sure he got cut open or something as well. So I was surprised by that.
It happens. Look at it. Like you said, it's going to be a learning curve for him as well. And we're looking at maybe look at Cage Warriors coming around the corner, PFL there as well. I wouldn't mind seeing Ger maybe having a fight at home. If I was to put eyes on, maybe I think Ger's probably going to want to fight and put that loss in the rear view mirror as quickly as possible. Obviously he'll have to recover and everything like that, but I'd be looking at some of the bigger cards here, whether it be maybe a one fight deal at Bellator. I'm not sure really what his contract is kind of set out at Cage Fight Series right now, whether it's a multi-fight contract or not, but whether he'll go over there again and try and fight again, or whether he will go over to maybe PFL or Bellator. Caoilte, what would you like to see him do next?
I think PFL would be a great one, but do they have the division as the other side of it? Bellator as
just
well?
make a fight. Just at this stage of his career, I just think, just match him up as a one-off fight, really.
Yeah, I'd like that idea of having a one-off fight in PFL. And look, if he makes a big enough impression, it could open up the door to a bigger opportunity. Like you saw, I think it was Lewis McGrillen fought there last night. He can fight at flyweight, and he went up to bantamweight for this one. But if you have enough talent there that can actually make up a flyweight division, like, it could be so exciting. So yeah, look, the Dublin card at the end of the year for Ger, I think would be just brilliant. They're going to need people to sell tickets and to get people in and get people excited about this card and get people talking about it. So, and Ger is, he's got a big following. He's a popular lad on the Irish scene. So I think he'd sell loads of tickets for that, and he'd be perfect for PFL's kind of debut in Ireland. Yeah,
100%. I couldn't agree more. Moving on to the last fight we're going to talk about, and that's Norman Parke, who went there and fought Junior Araglio at Hexagon MMA in France and picked up a win. And there's talks of him kind of fighting for a title at Hexagon next, I believe. That's what they're trying to, they're kind of putting out some feelers, maybe, as if that should happen. That'd be good. One thing, maybe thoughts on maybe Norman fighting for a title after that win. It's good to see him back in MMA. I know he's been doing a lot of stuff over in Poland, and he's been creating quite the fandom over there in like Fame MMA and doing all this, and credit to him, he's been making bank as well. But he's back in the cage. One of the most underrated fighters in Ireland right now. 30 wins, 7 losses and 1 draw in his career so far, and it's great to see him back in the win column again.
I'd love to see Norman fighting back I would. I'd like to see Norman fighting back in Ireland. Now that, because when you used to say
that's what I was going to go to next. That's what I was going to go to next.
But when you used to say you want to see someone fighting back in Ireland, you kind of associate that with fighting on like a domestic show, whereas now there's so many shows, it's the big shows are coming here. So Norman's also, Peter Queally was talking recently speaking of which, about how himself and Brian Moore are kind of the last of the old guard of that kind of generation. But Norman Parke was there. Norman Parke was there for all those fights. Norman Parke was in the UFC. I would just like to see him. I was glad to see him back in. He's fought in MMA and a bunch of different kind of rule sets and all stuff. But yeah, it's just I think he adds a little bit of excitement when he's around the scene. So yeah,
not afraid to talk his mind and everything.
No, he's a character.
He was on with Sean there, and it was a great interview as well. And I remember way back in the day, it was one of the biggest domestic Irish fights that I can remember early was Miles Price versus Norman Parke back in the day. That was, you're talking pre-2010.
Was that a Brave show in Belfast?
No, that wasn't a Brave show. That was they fought in a rematch. This was up at a cage contender in, I want to say, Strabane back in probably 2009 or 2010, and it was a huge fight at the time, and Norman won that fight, I believe. Miles got close. I was up at watching it actually. Miles came close with an armbar. Norman kind of got out of it and then went on, I think, to submit Miles as well. We'll just get up Norman's record here where we can put an actual date on it, but that's how far we're going back with Norman. He's one of the OGs of Irish MMA, and it's going to be interesting, Andy, to see what's next. He was on with Sean, and look at 2010. My memory is good, lads. The 2nd of May 2010. He's fighting Joe Duffy as well, Tom Maguire, all of those lads. And
Lee Hammond's actually here. Fuck it. Let's do this. Lee. Okay. Yeah. That was Lee Hammond calling me. I was about to just put him live on the broadcast, and now it's just saying Lee into him.
Yeah. No, it's all good. Look, we should move along. We'll connect with Lee in a little bit. We'll just let him know that we're recording, and maybe I'll put it to you, Caoilte. He called out with Sean. Norman Parke versus Peter Queally in Bellator. That's the fight that he wants. Sean suggested it on the interview, and Norman kind of went with it after that. Would you like to see that fight?
Yeah. Yeah, but see, the thing is, Norman fights at welterweight, doesn't he? He's fighting at welterweight nowadays. Don't think he has any interest in going back to lightweight where Peter is. So unless Peter's willing to go up then yeah, if he's willing to go up, it'd be a great one. I think it would, the hype around it, like we saw what happened when Miles and Peter fought, and kind of the energy around that fight, and even the feel in the arena that night was tense, but it was exciting. And I think that this could happen. Like, it could be the same type of vibe again, if not bigger, because of the history that I guess Norman's created. I think he won the Ultimate Fighter, the names he's beaten, and the fact that you've, as Andy was saying there, about the old guard, you have two of them against each other late in their career, headlining a card maybe, or up there. Yeah, it'd be incredible. I think it'd be a good one to put on for Bellator. But let's see. What do you think?
Oh, I'd love to see that fight as well. It'd be interesting to see if Norman can come to terms with Bellator, and if that fight were to happen in September, I tell you, it would get a lot of people talking. It'd be really, really fun to see that. We should move on, lads. We'll talk about a couple of the upcoming fights in action, but we're going to talk to Kiefer Crosbie. I should have actually said that at the start of the podcast. Obviously, you would have seen it with the graphic anyway, but Kiefer is joining us. We'll talk about his fight, a couple of more fights, but let's go straight over to Kiefer, and let's talk about Real. We want to talk about Real FC first.
Brilliant.
Real FC happened last night, Caoilte, and there's a bit of drama around the whole main event of the card. There was Troy Gibson was supposed to be fighting Steve Owens. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, Steve Owens, who I think he runs Real Fighting Championship. That's to my understanding, anyway. That's kind of, this has been, I guess, the talking point of the entire. Come on, Lee.
We've got Lee Hammond here. He's after joining. Do you want to buzz in for 1 second, Lee? Yeah. We won't ask any questions about Tough.
Sorry.
Right. Come on, jump in in front of the camera there. So we're joined by the SevereMMA Irish Pro. Well, we're recording, but it's going on. The Irish Pro of the Year for 2022, Lee Hammond. Back from Las Vegas. Yeah. We won't get any spoilers or anything like that. Okay. But good to be back. Yeah. Good to be back. Enjoyed the experience?
Yeah, enjoyed the experience. Great few weeks away. Learned a lot, picked up great details every day, 24/7 in a house with most people with the same dream. Do you know what I mean? Eating well, sleeping well, hydrating well. Yeah, it was a great experience. I would do it again straight away if they asked me.
I was saying to Kiefer yesterday, we have him on the podcast this week. Right. When we did the interview at RFC, and I asked you, what you want next, and you were like, I want the UFC to call me. Yeah. In my mind, and that's the reason why I asked you a follow-up question. I was like, but that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen next. That's unrealistic. And I was like, well, what's the realistic? I was wrong, and you're there. Were you surprised that you got that it happened so quickly?
I wasn't surprised really, especially when Conor got called to be the coach. Then I thought maybe I'd get the chance, and it's like snakes and ladders, snaking away for a while, then you get a ladder, you go up. So it could have had, regardless of how anything went at the Ultimate Fight, it would have taken me maybe 5 more fights to get to the UFC, but now I'm going to be in the UFC, so I feel like it was a great thing that happened, took advantage of the opportunity, and here we are now.
I saw another interview you did when you were over in Vegas. You were saying the camera's in your face 24/7. Yeah. You probably couldn't go for a piss without a camera in your face, could you?
You couldn't go for a piss. As soon as you wake up, there's a camera in the top corner, there's a camera in the far corner. A bloke comes in 6 a.m, puts a microphone on you. It was mad, it was a mad experience, but I knew what I signed up for, and I knew that it was a short sacrifice for a long-term goal. 5 weeks of sacrifice. I was getting the best of everything, best of training, best of food. There was some sacrifices, but
So you loved it when we dragged you in here and just put a camera in your face immediately.
I'm dead used to it now, so it's grand.
Well, I mean, it has yet to be seen now whether you'll pick up the Tough trophy, but what you do have is a great award here, and that's the SevereMMA
100%.
Professional Fighter of the Year. Look at all the hard work that you put in last year. That's why you got the reward. That's why you got the chance on Tough. Just kind of break down what you your experience over the last year. You must be very happy with the way things have gone and the way things are going right now.
Yeah, so before COVID hit, that was when I was looking to go pro. Obviously 2 years out, no shows, so I was just chomping at the bit during them 2 years, and then as soon as I could get fights, I knew I would get them going, get the ball rolling and not stop, so that's what I done. I got 4 or 5 fights in 13, 14 months. He kept correcting me, saying it was just over a year. A year sounded better, but Andy kept saying just over a year. So it was just over a year, and that's what I plan on keep on doing now, keep just racking them up. But I'm very, very grateful to get this. SevereMMA is the #1 Irish. I don't know about Europe, worldwide, don't really follow it that much, but I know you are the top dogs in Irish media. You are ruling the way. and the work he's doing is great, lads. Every week there's something up, there's something to follow. He's up at the local shows, the small shows, the big shows, so I'm very, very grateful to get this, and thanks very much for giving it to me.
I won't ask for any spoilers, but like, what is there any what can fans expect, I suppose, watching this season? It sounds like it might be a little bit of a throwback to earlier seasons where it's a bit more chaotic in the gaff. You know, I thought that tough for a long time, got very stale in the sense that it was just kind of, I loved watching the older ones where like lads are fucking getting locked and boxing the head off each other in the house. Was it a mad overall, the experience? Was it chaotic?
Yeah, at times it was definitely chaotic. Obviously everyone is focused on a fight and we're all professionals. I heard that the slap, you know, the slaps, the foot.
Yeah, slap.
I heard they lived in the house for 8 weeks beforehand and they shot a reality TV show, and apparently we were very tame compared to them, but there was some things, yeah, there were some fights, some arguments, some wind-ups, and a few times got too drunk and didn't remember what happened, so I don't really want to see them things, but it was an experience I signed up for. I knew what I was getting myself into, so did everybody else, so just have to roll with it now.
Yeah, well, so for those experiences, it sounds like you'll be finding it out first hand once you see it on TV as well.
Yeah, exactly, that's the thing. It's not like it gets sent to you and I can edit something. It's out there now, so hopefully if the producers are watching this, look after us.
Right, well, Lee, thanks for jumping in there. We'll put you on the spot.
Nice one.
Appreciate
it. Nice one.
Yeah, I think we'll go to the Kiefer Crosbie interview now. So we've got Kiefer Crosbie coming on now. Give that a watch and we'll be back in a little bit.
Let's go next week, Kiefer. Nice one for the old trip to Porto.
All right, we're here, the Auld Triangle, live for our first ever live interview. Ian's over from Canada. You'll have heard us all by now at this point. And we're joined by BDK, Kiefer Crosbie. How are you?
What's up, boys? All good? Thanks for having me.
Big fight coming up this coming Saturday, the 1st of April at Rise FC in Portugal against none other than Alex Cowboy Oliveira, a UFC veteran. I think he's got something like 22 fights or something crazy in the UFC. When you first, when this fight was first brought to you, what was your reaction?
Funny, look, it was actually posted on, we have a pro page for the fighters, and Pedro Carvalho actually posted it up, and when I seen it I was like, fucking Cowboy, I thought he was still in the UFC. I didn't even know he was released from the UFC, and I was actually at a funeral when I was sitting in the limo, believe it or not, from the funeral to the graveyard, and I was looking at it, and it was one of those moments where I was like, just a light went off in my head, do you know what I mean? It was my uncle's funeral, and I was like, man, this is the opportunity I've been looking for, do you know what I mean? Like, so I texted Pedro straight away. I was like, what's the story with this? Like, is there anyone to fight him or what? He said, yeah, they're just looking for someone from SBG. So I was like, 100% sign me up. Like, within 10 seconds, I was like, Pedro, get me on that 100%. This is the one I need, you know what I mean? To fucking bring me on to the next level. So he reached out to your man, and your man reached out to me within about an hour or so. I said, are you actually interested? I said, mate, confirm me, send me a contract now, like, I'll have a look through. So it was like one of those moments. There was nothing to it, you know what I mean? Now, it took him a week or so, I think, to get back and confirm his end. So I don't know what the crack with that is, but I'm sure it was all good. But yeah, it was just an opportunity I've been looking for, do you know what I mean? And I'm very happy with it. So
yeah, first, very sorry to hear about your uncle.
I know, man, do you know what I mean? It was me ma's uncle, really. She was like a great uncle of mine, do you know what I mean? It was the last of me nanny's brother. She's dead a long time now, so yeah, it was just one of those mad moments, you know what I mean? On the way to kind of bury him, and it was like, life is short type thing. I was like, why the fuck wouldn't I jump on this? You know what I mean? This is exactly what I've been looking for. It's hard for me to get a fight anywhere else. It was really difficult, and I knew he 100% won't pull out. You know what I mean? Like, I got a lot of people pulling out fights, and I was like, this bloke won't pull out. That's the only thing I was thinking of. So it all just worked out well.
Yeah, it's handy when, like, when there's one of those fights that comes up and it's like zero hesitation. This makes sense.
Yeah.
Is it because he's a UFC veteran, or why? Like, why when that name came across from your teammate Pedro, why was it the zero hesitation?
Well, I've been in, like, I want to get to the UFC, you know what I mean? That's my only goal, and I've been very vocal about that, and we have been back and forth with the UFC. I know the UFC are 100% interested, but of course, like, being released from Bellator and stuff, they told me to go win some fights, beat notable people, maybe be a champion, and other organisations, it doesn't really get more notable than a person like him, you know what I mean? So in terms of, like, reward after a win, this is a big reward after a win in my eyes, you know what I mean? Beating someone like this is a fucking statement. I could go on and fight like these nobodies, or beat, you know, other champions that nobody knows, or I could fight someone that everyone knows, you know what I mean? he's had 22 fights in the UFC, almost double the fights in the UFC that I've even had in my whole career, you know what I mean? So me beating someone like this is a big feather in my cap. So after this, like, I'm 100% called for it, and nobody can say nothing then, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like I remember we were talking before in the last interview that we did, and you were saying how, you know, you just kind of need X number of more wins, you got to keep winning and keep going. But like it is hard when you're fighting on the likes of the shows in Malta and other shows where there isn't as much spotlight or attention, where okay, you can have a really solid win or a finish or whatever, but if there's not the media attention there, it's difficult to stand out. Whereas like when I heard of this fight, I was like, hang on, what? Like where did this fight come from? And like immediately you hear Alex Cowboy Oliveira, and he's not just a UFC veteran of a long time, but he's put on some really exciting fights. Like Gunny's fought him. He comes to finish every time. And when I thought of this matchup between you, I was like, this is going to be fucking violence. Like basically, was that kind of what you were thinking?
100%, you know what I mean? You all know what I'm like, you know what I mean? I love a fight, and he comes to fight, you know what I mean? That's it. And I mean, I'm prepared for every fucking situation in this one. It could be the hardest fight in my life, or it could be the easiest fight in my life, you know what I mean? Depending on, boy, I want to be the boss in here, you know what I mean? I'm not going in here to just fucking stand toe to toe and be stupid and be reckless. But at the end of the day, I've took more or less zero damage in this sport, although maybe people see like the fights, you know, I have a bit of blood on me or whatever. That's a cut. I have never been knocked out in the gym or in a fight. I've never been concussed. I've never been hurt bad that people are worried he has, you know what I mean, a lot. And I come to finish also, and my shots are devastating. So I feel like me on where I am in my life and my career right now and where he is in his life, we're two very different people. And you know what I mean, again, big respect to him and all, but like I'm coming in here to finish. I don't give a fuck who it is, you know what I mean, whether it's a Cowboy Oliveira or a nobody, do you know what I mean? So it doesn't, his name and stuff means nothing to me, do you know what I mean? It really doesn't. But he's at the end of that stage now, you know what I mean? I'm at the beginning of it. I have a lot to gain from this win. He doesn't have much to gain. So, but again, I'm not expecting an easy night, you know what I mean? It's going to be a tough fight, but I've prepared for a tough fight. I've prepared for 15 minutes of a fucking war. So it can go either way really, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens on the night,
Yeah, you have a smile on your face there as you're saying that, and I know you said like the name means nothing, but like when I heard Dustin Poirier talking recently about the likes of a Justin Gaethje, or you know, when he hears an opponent's name, and maybe it's not the name but more the fighting style, that kind of makes him a little bit, that little bit of nerves or a little bit of extra that's like, right, I need to, this will really make me focus. Do you go through any similar process, or like when you look at his fighting style, does it kind of be like, right, this is the one I really need to fucking go for here now?
Nah, kind of, but not really as well. Do you know what I mean? Every fight is like that for me. You know what I mean? It's I like to focus on myself, and it's about me performing more so than him. What he's going to do, it's going to excite me. Do you know what I mean? I don't really care what he does, to be honest. It's self-defense under bright lights in my eyes, you know what I mean? If someone jumps on you on the street, I'm not going to ask what your experience is, if you're a black belt, what weight you, what your range like, you know, what type of fighting style do you have. I'm just going to fight, I'm going to defend myself, and I'm going to try and win. So on fight night, I kind of have the same approach where I don't really care what he does. I'm just going to make sure I have an answer for what he does and capitalise on maybe his mistakes, counter shots, make sure all my shit is correct. So no matter what he tries to do, I'll have an answer for it, you know what I mean? I'm a well-rounded fighter. So, but again, as I said, his name does hold a lot of weight, you know what I mean? So a win over that name, I know that afterwards it will hopefully, like for the media and shit like that, and the UFC, it'll open their eyes to where I'm at. But before the fight, he's just a human. He's 2 arms, 2 legs, and a chin, and brain cells that I have to strip from him. So that's how I look at this. I don't really care, do you know what I mean, about anything else really. Do
you know, Andy said that Gunnar was in the gym there recently. Did you have a conversation with him about him? He was in there before?
Trained with Gunny every day, for weeks, man. He's like my favourite training partner. I fucking love Gunny, he's there. I picked his brain a lot, trained with him every day, do you know what I mean? He was here, and I got probably more rounds in with him this time than I've ever got in with him over the years, you know what I mean? And fucking love training with Gunny. He's deadly, do you know what I mean? He's so good. And yeah, of course I asked him a lot of questions, and he just was telling me things, and we, you know, went through some stuff. But man, even Gunny, you see him last week, how good he is. It's a joke how good he is. Like, he's on a different level. Like, I genuinely believe he could be the champion of that division. Like, that's how good I think he is, you know what I mean? So, but it was good to have him here for a while, and do a bit of training with him,
100%. Like, I mean, for grappling terms, I think it would be excellent preparation for someone like Cowboy. I mean, I think maybe on the feet gunners a little bit kind of more measured.
Have you ever sparred him?
No, I have not. Maybe not. I guess from what we've seen in the last fight, you know what I mean? He barely threw any shots, and he threw, like, his strike accuracy was very high. We've seen the stats come out during the week, and I guess why I was asking that is that Cowboy is a wild man at times. Do you kind of have to say to yourself, you know, not to get drawn into that type of fight with him?
Can do, yeah, 100%. You know, again, you can be an easy night or a hard night. Do you know what I mean? I can get again. If all else fails, I can bite down and be a dog as well, do you know what I mean? And I can be a wild man too, but it's not about who's wilder, it's really who's more efficient and who can be cleaner on the night, you know what I mean? Who can land the cleaner shots, you know what I mean? The most, the shots that mean more, you know what I mean? He can throw wild shots and they might not land as clean as he may think they will, do you know what I mean? Or I can maybe close this and throw 1 or 2 shots and it'll be a lot cleaner and a lot more meaningful, you know what I mean? So it just depends on how the fight's going. Obviously, as I said, I want to be the boss in there, but if it comes down to it and we have to go toe to toe and it's going to be a war, well, I'm a dog as well and I'm ready for that, you know what I mean? That's what I've been preparing for, a fucking war. So, you know, I'm in a war. You can either be a frontline soldier with a machine gun or you could be in the bleachers with a sniper rifle, do you know what I mean? I see myself as a sniper and he's more of the man on the front line with a machine gun that's wild and crazy, just trying to blow everyone's head off. I'm going to stay back and try to blow his head off from afar, and it's going to be efficient and clean, do you know what I mean? So that's the mindset I have going in here. So
100%.
Yeah.
I always liked the way you transitioned down. Obviously, you fought a couple of times at welterweight. You transitioned slowly down to lightweight. Are you glad to be back at welterweight again?
A little bit, yeah. Look, it's weird. I have a weird kind of body type for this, you know what I mean? Some fucking people, I can't even train them when the welterweights come over. They're 100 kilos, and you're like, how are you even making 77? And then some lads, like Cowboy, he's not really on the bigger end of a welterweight. We're kind of maybe similar. He's a lot leaner. He's long and lean. I'm more like stocky, and you know. But it just depends. You know what I mean? Some people I train with and they tell me they're welterweights, and I look at them and they're like 6'4" and like fucking 96 kilos, and I'm like, you're not a welterweight. You make welterweight for about 10 seconds and then you go back up to 90 kilos. That's not. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a weird weight cutting it. But then it's the same for me. If I say I'm a lightweight, people look at me and go, you're a fucking lightweight. So, but I've made lightweight before. I mean, who knows? After this one, I'd love to get to the UFC and maybe have a few lightweight fights. But I'd bounce. I'll do whatever. Do you know what I mean? I'm happy where I'm at now. I'm eating nice. I'm fueled nice. I'm not killing myself to make weight. So that feels good as well. Do you know what I mean? 100%. So I'm healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, like to get to the UFC, there's a couple of different avenues to get there now. Obviously, the Contender Series is one. You can just get straight in as well. What would your preference be to get
after this fight straight into the UFC? That's my preference.
No Contender Series.
No Contender Series. No, man. There's no need. No way. I'm ready to go. Do you know what I mean? I mean, if you look at it from a marketing point of view, why wouldn't they want to sign me? Do you know what I mean? Of all, like, anyone that's done this sport from this country, I've been calling for this for a long time. Like, you know what I mean? I'd blow up in the UFC. I mean, I'm not a boring fighter by any means. I fit the fucking business model perfect. I'm a dog. I have a whole country behind me. I have a huge following. I've had a huge following since the beginning. You know what I mean? It's all I want. You know what I mean? And but I can say all that shit all I want. I have to beat this lad first. You know what I mean? And prove that. So, but ideally, I'd love to run through this lad and then call for the UFC and get straight in. A dream of mine, I'd love to fight in the same card as Conor. Do you know what I mean? That's, you know what I mean? Because like try to recreate what they done back in the day in 2014 and 15, and have a new Irish surge coming through, and it'd be an honour to share a card with him. Do you know what I mean? He's the main fighter that really motivated me the most of all the other fighters, and being a teammate and being from Dublin. Do you know what I mean? He's fucking, and what he's achieved really gave me a kick up the whole years ago to cop on and work harder. Do you know what I mean? And try to achieve my own goals and make my own money. Do you know what I mean? So I'd love to share the card with him. I'd love to even open the card for his next fight. Do you know what I mean? If that's the case, if the timing was right, you know what I mean? If I beat him and maybe jump on his card, you know what I mean? Or get the UFC back to the tree. I mean, I have a lot of goals. You know what I mean? I have a list of fucking goals. I have a diary at home. I have a list of shit I want to accomplish before I hang them up. You know what I mean? And one of them is obviously share a card with him, but another is to get the UFC back to the Tree Arena. I'd love to do that too. Do you know what I mean? Like, you see when I find the Tree Arena what it's like. You know what I mean? I sell fucking all the. I haven't fought there in a while now, but sell all the tickets. I blow the roof off the place. It's a huge night. So I'd love to do the same with the UFC. That's my goal. Do you know what I mean? So and I just can't rest, can't stop until I achieve them goals. So.
I guess, so this is what, your second on a one fight deal type basis. Previously, I guess we would have seen a lot of fighters go through promotions, I think, such as Cage Warriors, plenty of others around as well, Aries, and sign them long term. Do you think, I guess, the way forward and how you're seeing it now is these one fight deals in different promotions are actually almost a better way of having control over your own career to get to the UFC?
Very difficult, yeah, because it's been very hard for me to get fights. So in an ideal world, yeah, that's what I thought as well. As soon as I got released from Bellator, my whole thing was, when I was chatting to my manager, I was like, I'm not signing with anybody now. The next time I sign a piece of paper for a contract will be with the UFC. I'll only sign bout agreements, you know what I mean? And it's been very hard to get one fight deals. Like, nobody wants to have them. The money is a bit shitter. You know, I'm not an easy fight for anyone in the world, so no one's going to want to fight me for buttons, you know what I mean? So it's very hard to persuade someone unless they're getting a few quid. Like, Bellator was handy because they could just go, here, look, we'll give you this, and jump in, and they're like, oh, fuck, I'll make 10 grand or something, and it's like some idiot will jump in and, you know, fight me, which is with the one fight deals, it's fucking so hard to get one fight. Maybe I could have signed with somebody in a smaller organisation. I've got offered a good few contracts. I said no. I just wanted to do my own thing. Didn't want to sign with anyone. You know what I mean? But look, here we are now, so I can't really, you know, look in the past anymore. I'm here. I'm a week away from this one, and then after this, we'll just see what happens. So
I guess getting this fight then and having that name as well, I guess it shows the decision paid off not signing all those other contracts and actually waiting.
Yeah, big time. That's what I'm saying. Like, when I seen the name, and I was looking at it, I was like, fucking Cowboy. I thought he was still in the UFC. You know what I mean? I didn't even know he was cut. I genuinely didn't. But he's even had 3 fights since. Didn't even know that either. I actually thought he was in the UFC. But just again, like a light bulb went off. I was like, this is the fucking opportunity I've been thinking of. Do you know what I mean? But I just didn't think it was going to be him, or, you know. And in Portugal, and the fact he's flying over here is perfect. You know what I mean? It lined up perfect. So yeah.
I guess with Irish MMA at the moment, it's booming. We've had Danni McCormack just win a title. Lee Hammond's been on tough. Now you've the potential to have a huge win as well.
Yeah.
Do you think there's kind of this new wave coming through that could potentially actually tempt the UFC back to Ireland?
Absolutely, 100%. Like, Lee Hammond will be a UFC world champion in my eyes. Danni McCormack is a world champion, just won a belt. She deserves to be in there as well, and many more. Like, there's so many fighters in this gym and in Ireland in general that are so fucking good. Like, do you know what I mean? Even people you don't even know yet, I know, that are, you know, climbing and they're hungry and they're motivated, from the likes of me, and even Connor's done. Like, he's kicked the door in and led the way, and then it's all trickled down to the next wave and then the next wave, and it's never going to stop. People are only getting better, do you know what I mean? But I can see like a good few fighters just storming in soon, you know what I mean? And I'd like to be a part of that, to be honest. So yeah, hopefully.
We mentioned Lee there. I'm not going to get you to put any spoilers out for Tough or anything like that, but
I know nothing.
For Lee to go over there and compete in the Ultimate Fighter, for you know, Connor was obviously coaching, John was there, Keane, you know, yourself, Lee, Keane are very, very close. Is that motivating? Like, what was that like for you, kind of, you know, being back in Ireland while they're over there doing that in the Ultimate Fighter?
I'm very proud of him, do you know what I mean? It's I've been training with Lee since before he even had his first MMA fight, you know what I mean? He's probably like my main training partner in general. So to see him, I knew this was going to happen from bleeding. I knew he was going to get to the UFC eventually. I knew that when he was an amateur, do you know what I mean? And then when he won the IMMAF, so I knew all this was going to happen. Do you know what I mean? It's like I said to James Gallagher when he was 15. It's similar to Leah. I was like, I seen it, and I'm seeing the work he puts in. I know how good he is. He runs through people on a daily basis. He's a special type of fighter, do you know what I mean? And he has the mindset and the work ethic to match that too. So it was only a matter of time. And he's, again, like me, has goals, sticks to them, puts a plan in place, puts the work in, and he achieves them. So it's only a matter of time before he got to the likes of the Ultimate Fighter and the UFC, and you know. But yeah, he's one to fucking just keep your eyes on big time. He's gonna blow up big time, yeah.
The fact that, you know, it is someone so close to you and Lee, is that extra motivating for you to see that he is now, you know, he has that avenue? Like, I interviewed him after his last fight against Nikola Ivanovic, and I was like, you know, what's next? And he was like, the UFC. And I'll admit, I asked a follow-up question, because I was like, all right, well, you know, realistically, like, what's next? Because I didn't think that it would be next, and it is, you know, 100%. Or at least the Ultimate Fighter at the very least. Is that extra motivating for you to now, when you're kind of trying to forge that path outside of the traditional routes, to be like, oh, you know what, actually, not only do I have someone like Lee, who's in there and is showing me that it is possible to make that jump from, you know, a regional show, but then you're facing Cowboy Oliveira as well, where you have that UFC vet name.
100%. This is something that, you know, it's not a coincidence. It's not new. Do you know what I mean? We've been talking about this for years. Like, we've been talking about this since 2015, 16. This is going on a long time. All we talk about after training is, like, you know, goals and UFC and what we want and what we do, and it's going to happen, and we have to just stick to it. Do you know what I mean? And we've been doing this a long time. This isn't like in the past couple of months type thing. Do you know what I mean? All of us have been, Key and James, all of us. So the plan is just working the way we thought it was going to work. Do you know what I mean? And it's only a matter of time before more people join and just keep getting better. You know what I mean? You get out what you put in at the end of the day. You know, you can call for all the fucking goals in the world, but if you're not putting the work in and winning the fights and doing all the right things, nothing will happen for you. And we work harder than anyone. Do you know what I mean? And I'm very grateful to have people like them, the army mates, that are like all my top like 5-10 friends in my life are all just trained killers. I surround myself with winners and killers. You know what I mean? I don't really have mates anymore in terms of bleeding just normal people. All my friends are like highly motivated, trained killers. You know what I mean? So when you surround yourself with people like that on a daily basis, when we just push each other up, we kind of just we have each other's backs and we push each other on the daily. What course we're going to achieve what we're achieving now. You know what I mean? So, and it's good to have that. You know what I mean? Because you need it. You need to lean on people every now and then. And the boys are coming over with me and we're going over on Wednesday. Me, Lee, Keane, James. They're going to be in my corner too. So, do you know what I'm saying? That's the buzz we're on. So we just have each other's backs, and yeah, we're just achieving the shit we said we were going to achieve. So
the boys on tour in Portugal.
Yeah. Oh wait, they're after the fight.
Kiefer, we'll let you go in a second. Give us a prediction for the fight. How do you see it playing out when you visualise it?
I'm going to win by any means necessary. You know what I mean? That's the thing. Like, there's no point in saying I'm going to do this and that and fucking, you know, knock him out, submit him, whatever. I'm ready for whatever. Do you know what I mean? I've put the work in. 23 years of my life I've been doing martial arts. I started when I was 10 years of age. You know what I mean? I'll be 33 in April. This is a long time. This isn't like a 10-week camp I've done here. Do you know what I mean? I've been doing this shit since I'm a kid. So when I was 15 years of age, I was watching the UFC and I said it to myself, I'm going to be in the UFC someday. And I got laughed at. And even by family members, they'd look at me like I'm a fucking dope, even saying something like that. You know what I mean? And I had my first MMA fight when I was 19, 2009. When I won that, I was literally saying, I'm going to be in the UFC. Like, all I ever wanted was the UFC. It's not about like just signing with this and you get more money with that and this and that. For me, it's about the goal. And I don't have to explain my goal to anyone, but it's what I want. You know what I mean? I want to look down and look at those UFC gloves. I want to fight in that octagon. I want to be in there representing Ireland on the biggest stage in the world. You know what I mean? I don't want to be one of these guys saying like, oh, I know I fight for one of the biggest organisations in the world. No, I want to say I'm fight for the biggest organisation in the world, and that's my goal. So, but yeah, I'm gonna go in there and just literally put everything on this man and just try win by any means necessary. Yeah.
Last one that I just thought of there.
That was the last.
No, see, this is what you do. We go. Oh, sorry, just one more question.
There's always fucking one more. Go on. Oh, listen.
You mentioned James there. In the old SVG gym, you were front and centre when there was a fracas between himself and Mr. Anthony Pretty Boy Taylor, your best mate. What's the story? It's heating up here again. Is this? Could this actually happen?
I don't know. To be honest, I just don't even like being around that fucking Mongo thing. I can't stand him. Yeah, honestly, I don't even want to comment on him because he's such a donkey of a thing. Do you know what I mean? Honest to God, like, he thinks he's a great promoter and people are saying he's not even a good promoter. He's just an annoying person. You know what I mean? And James smoked him already, and James will smoke him again, I'm sure. But I don't fucking know, to be honest. You know what I mean? If James is fighting him, I'll probably just show up and fight. I don't want to be around any of the press shit because I can't listen to the cunt. Do you know what I mean? Honest to God, he's a bleeding melt.
You looked more wound up than James did.
I just had James's back. Do you know what I mean? If you wanted to kick off, I was going to bleed and break his nose or something, but he's just a tick. He's one of these aegis that just, you know what I mean, he's for the cameras and he just loves to hype her up and talk shit, and I don't mind all that either, but sometimes you say things that, you know, you don't throw stones if you live in a glass house, you know what I mean, because you get your head caved in, so you'd want to be careful what he says.
Well, I ended this interview on a very negative note, but hopefully it'll be a bit more positive in Portugal.
It's all sunshine and rainbows, boys, yeah.
Hopefully it'll be a bit more positive in Portugal. Kiefer Crosbie taking on Alex Cowboy Oliveira, Saturday 21st of April on Rise FC. Tune in, and we'll chat to you again. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much, boys. Yeah, fair play to you. Yeah, thank you, boys. Yeah, good stuff.
And we're back. Getting gate crashed by Lee Hammond was not what we were expecting, but we welcomed it a lot. It was great to get to catch him. We were talking about Real FC, lads, before we went over to the Kiefer Crosbie interview, and it was great to hear from him. A huge opportunity for Kiefer against Cowboy Olivier. Let's kind of maybe just round off that interview with that. Like, it is a huge opportunity. It's going to be great to see him kind of get in there. Good solid matchup, and hopefully he gets to UFC next, Caoilte.
Yeah, fighting a UFC veteran and like I guess a legend of sport in Brazil for sure, and like the amount of fights he's had, and like everything around him, the record, some of the names, it's huge. Biggest fight to date for Kiefer, and I would be very, very shocked if he didn't get to the UFC with a win. Massive opportunity for him here.
100%. We're going to try and rattle through the rest of the podcast, lads. The fights are going to be starting here. We'll come back and talk about the nationals. Real FC, there was a little bit of drama. Explain everything that happened over the last couple of days, Caoilte. It was a bit of a mad show, really, altogether.
Yeah, so I think we were kind of putting the pieces together what was kind of happening there over the last few days. So Real FC is, I'm pretty sure, is it run by Steve Owens, to my understanding, and he was booked to fight Troy Gibson in, I'm not sure if it's catchweight, welterweight, hearing a few different things, whatever it may be, and that fight fell out with 14 hours to go, and Eamon Dean, I think he might be a training partner maybe of Steve Owens. He stepped in and actually ended up winning. It was his MMA debut. He's got Pro K1 experience, but it's not just about, there seemed to be a bit of drama, and I'm not even too sure what's exactly happened. So Steve Owens looked like he was preparing to make way to fight Troy, and then all of a sudden there's a new opponent announced within a few hours of that. Like there's literally, I think there's 3 hours from a story that Steve Owens put up getting ready for the weight cut, saying it was the hard part, and then a new fight being announced. So I'm not sure what's gone on. Is it a case of, like, we haven't got clarity on it yet, so I don't want to be speculating either. I'd love if they come out and actually explain what's fully happened first, because it seemed like a bit of a mess in the end, and that's not good for, I guess, either fighter.
No.
And Troy in particular, you think you're going to have one opponent, and then it's a lot of messing about.
Yeah, like when you're getting ready for a fight like that in your pro debut as well, it's kind of like with things
second pro
but
fights. Even the first one,
the first one with drama as well. It's like Troy he hasn't had the best run of luck at all, and it's just unfortunate the way it worked out. But sure, look at, as they say, these things happen in MMA sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. No, fair play to fair play to Eamon Dean to go in there and take out such a massive prospect in Troy Gibson as well, but hopefully he gets a big opportunity soon in the back of it, because that's so impressive, and hopefully we see Troy back in there soon. I'm not sure what Steve Owens going to do, if he's going to be competing soon, or will that fight be rebooked or anything like that. But yeah, I guess we've got a lot to look forward to and see what happens there and how that plays out.
Plenty to look forward to. Let's talk about Leah and Kat Zingano next, Andy, before we'll talk with Leah and Onadina, but Bissa has a fight coming up, John Mitchell as well. We'll touch on those as well. But Leah and Kat Zingano is a big fight. Bellator 293 in California on the 31st of March. Next week, it's next weekend coming actually. Yeah, the March has slipped away from me on this trip. It's a huge fight, and there's talks that there was interim titles fights offered and everything like that, but I think Scott Coker kind of alluded to the fact that the winner of this might be next in line for the title shot against Cyborg.
Yeah, I mean, you can argue that this is the biggest fight of Leah McCourt's career. Obviously, the Sinead fight was huge, but when you look at Kat Zingano, she's a former UFC title contender. From a name perspective, a stature perspective, and her history in the sport, it's a humongous fight for Leah McCourt. And as you said, she had the loss to Sinead, obviously, but she's come back. She's got the win against Diana Silva last time out. And now, it's a bit of a weird one, because you kind of expected Sinead to be next in line, but then Leah went off and got the win, and now if you get a win over someone like a Kat Zingano, you're definitely knocking on the door of a title shot. And Chris Cyborg seems to be, I saw she tweeted just the other day that she reckons she'll be seeing Leah in Dublin. Yeah, huge fight, huge fight. Taking place this Friday, 31st of March in Temecula, California. Bellator 293. A tough fucking fight.
Tough fight, yeah.
Tough fight, but yeah, high stakes, high rewards.
Yeah, that's it. We'll stick with Bellator, Caoilte. Karl Moore versus Alex Polisi will fight next month. Look, we'll talk a little bit more about that probably closer to the time. Bellator 294. He's going to have to get out the Hawaiian shirt. It's over in Hawaii, and it's the fight that you want to see for Karl Moore. He's ranked number 6 now. Polisi's number 5 ranked. It's the fight that we've been calling for. He's been calling for. John had been talking about the plan, and the plan is well in place now at this stage. You get a win over Alex Polisi, and you're well into the title mix.
Yeah, the plan seems to be all coming together now, and this is I guess a massive opportunity to get maybe not a title fight afterwards, but progress towards a title fight. What I'd love to see happen is that I'd love to see him get the Yoel Romero fight if he wins. That's the one. So yeah, I'd love to see him get the win here, enjoy his time in the Hawaiian shirt, as you're saying, Ian, and then
put
maybe
the surfboard away at that point and come back to Dublin.
Come back to the rain in Dublin and hope for Yoel Romero next. I'd love him versus Yoel in Dublin. Could you imagine the size of that card, and especially if you Cyborg and Leah on it potentially as well? I think the potential is just massive.
Yeah, I mean, next weekend as well, it's a busy weekend for Irish MMA, Andy. Nadine Abbott-Bissett and John Mitchell in action as well. John Mitchell against Sirikant Stekar on Friday. Nadine Abbott-Bissett will fight a Combache this weekend as well. Nadine is fighting a Mexican lady, 0-2. I can't remember her name. She told me yesterday.
Has it been announced, Stephen?
It hasn't been announced. I've reached out to Combache myself for confirmation, and
that's terrible, to be honest with you. I'm going to be very blunt. It's terrible for an Irish fighter to not be able to promote themselves by not having that detail out there, and it's not Nadine's fault.
No.
This is, we talk about the likes of Shauna, or we were talking earlier. Could you imagine the build up to whatever fight, like Shauna versus Danni, any fight? You want to get people excited. You want to get people invested in your career. It's not fair for a fighter to only be able to say a day before or 2 days before, oh, by the way, I'm fighting this weekend. Here's my opponent, and at that point, people might not even tune in.
Yeah.
But yeah,
like that's what I said.
Looking forward to seeing Nadine back, whoever she's fighting.
Yeah, I said to Nadine yesterday. I was like, I didn't even realise you were fighting until you put you put it up on your story, fighting in 10 days, and I was like, what? And I had reached out to Mike at Combache, and I've got nothing back. I know that there's fights in the works for Dee Begley as well, or fights in the works for Pale Han, but yeah, it's hard to get information out of them recently. So. And
we're an Irish MMA podcast where we're fucking constantly searching out who's coming up, getting a spreadsheet of what the crack is, what can we get excited about, what can we communicate to fans who want to watch Irish fighters. How can you expect the average Joe who just wants to tune in, how for them to know? It's just crazy to me, but alas, we'll move on. And what we can get very excited about, as I rob your position once again,
Andy, go for it,
is Cage Conflict.
Cage Conflict is coming up.
Brilliant card coming up.
A fantastic card. Lots and lots of great fights to talk about. When you're looking down through it there, and we have it up in front of us here on their Instagram page, all the fights are listed. There's some fantastic fights on this card. I mean, I cannot wait to watch a lot of these fights. Ryan Keogh versus Key Keogh is there. Jess Paulo versus Senan Coakley. Craig McGrattan. No, that actually is changed now. McGrattan is out, and Max Daly is fighting Tiernan Loughran now, which is an absolutely mouth-watering fight in the amateur ranks in Irish MMA, and 2 top Irish amateurs. That's what you want to see, Caoilte, isn't it?
Oh, stop. This has to be one of the best cards that Cage Conflict have done.
Yeah.
Like, the matchmaking is hats off to them. It's incredible here. Senan Coakley versus Jess Paulo. What a fight. Oh my goodness. Henry Corrigan's coming back. Nice to see him back in action again. I think he's one of a pro. Is he actually fighting out of Fight Academy Ireland now as well? So once this loads, we'll be able to confirm that. But anyway, nice to see him back. As you mentioned, the battle of the Keoghs. One has to walk out the winner. Graham Sheehan's back. Wow. It's stacked.
Lots and lots of stuff to talk about. What's standing out to you in this card, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things that stand out to me. The Tiernan Loughran Max Lally fight stands out to me. The Ryan Keogh versus Keith Keogh, the rematch from the IMMA National Championships last year. Two very exciting amateurs. I'm excited. I'm trying to find. Isn't Jared Burns defending his title on this one? I'm pretty sure, or maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, there's tons. But the point that I wanted to get across about this card is this is a fantastic card. Like, we've been critical. We talked with Liam Shannon last week, kind of aired out our
got tested.
Yeah, or a couple of weeks ago now. But this is fantastic. It's from top to bottom, quality matchups across the board, exciting young amateurs. Scott Harvey, I'm very interested to see him back on the pro side, and yeah, all around really, really excited for this event.
Yeah, honestly, it's been it was great to have Liam on and to have a chat about it and the whole process about matchmaking and everything like that. Ain't no fucking problem with the matchmaking in this card. That has to be said. It's a fantastic card. Credit to the lads up there. I'm really, really looking forward to tuning in and watching that. And that kind of wraps us up, lads. We will go. We'll take a quick break. We'll go out and we'll watch the national championships. We'll come back. We'll give a little bit of a roundup to finish off episode 28, the first one. Hopefully not the last one that we'll be able to do live, but it'll be the last one for a little while anyway, as I head back to Canada pretty soon. But it's really been fantastic to get to meet the two boys here, get to know them a little bit better and in person as well. You're just bringing up Jared Burns' fight there, Andy, on Cage Conflict. Yeah,
Jared Burns, so he's in the main event defending his flyweight title. I completely forgot the opponent, and it's a brilliant one. It's George Moraru, who's making his professional debut. He has looked very impressive as an amateur over the last kind of year or two. Jared Burns has really impressed me also. I'm excited. I think for Jared Burns, if he gets a win in this one, I would like to see him progress then on to the likes of a PFL, a Cage Warriors, about one of the big shows that are in Ireland. And as Liam kind of talked to us about, that's kind of what the point of Cage Conflict is to give these guys who are early in their career the platform to then springboard off. So yeah, very exciting. I'm actually going to be up in Belfast, but on a stag. So I'm actually raging. I'm half tempted to just dish the lads.
Fucking get head
and
off.
tip over.
I'm not feeling too well there around close to card fight time, but yeah, that will be taking place in the Devonish complex. Like I said, we're going to just log off here for a bit, go out and watch the championships, and we'll be back to round off the podcast soon, so bear with us and we'll be back soon. We're standing up after the Irish National Championships because we're not able to sit down, especially after the last fight we saw, lads, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. We'll give you a quick roundup. Over the 2 days we've seen a lot of fantastic fights. We had the pleasure of calling the fights, all three of us as well, and the finals were on today in SBG HQ, the Irish National Championships. We've seen some people retain their titles. We've seen some new kind of gold medalists come into the fray as well. It was a good overall day for CMAC Jim, who took home what, 3, 4? Was it 3 or 4?
Three gold medals, I think it was. Yeah, 3 gold medals.
Yeah, crazy stuff. We're going to give you a quick run through of all the action. Obviously it was Kieran Coyle and Jake Nye who Conran Coyle, sorry, and Jake Nye who opened up the action for us today, and it was Jake Nye who took home his second gold medal, and I mean it was a massively impressive performance, Andy.
Yeah, another very impressive performance from Jake Nye. I was very impressed by Conran Coyle though too. I thought over the course of 2 days he looked very promising, but Jake Nye is a one that to keep an eye on. We've seen the kind of the viral Tarico Plata, and we saw him here last year. That was when I was kind of first introduced to him, but yeah, look, steady on. He's early, he's only 19 I think still, so looking forward to seeing what's next for him. But again, another great day for himself.
Yeah, and for CMAC as well, who he's now representing as well, Caoilte. As we move on, Nate Kelly in the second bout of the day took on Shea Cleland, and that was another great battle as well. Shea Cleland coming in, obviously there was a little bit of confusion around who's going to get the medals here in this one, because Shea was defeated in the semi-finals. Nate wanted to fight. Shea opted to step in and give him that contest, and he ended up losing. Shea won that battle as well. It was an excellent performance overall.
Fantastic, one of the best fights all day. Like, I think Nate was having a lot more success early in the fight in the first round, and then after that you had Shea kind of come back back into it, make it into a real dogfight. And the two of them were just fantastic. They put on an absolute show. And fair play to Shay, like he did 3 rounds yesterday. He had a fight yesterday, now he's come in and got a big win today.
Yeah.
Play to him.
Andy, I think you were on the boot with me for Kerry-Ann Vernon and Emer Darcy. Yeah. That was a great fight. Kerry-Ann Vernon took home the win and took her second medal home as well in consecutive years. That was a great fight.
Yeah, she was. I was chatting to her after. She was saying she was happy to get to show her grappling because we've seen what Kerry can do on the feet, but Emer Darcy really brought it to her here. I hadn't seen much of Emer Darcy coming into this. I was very impressed by her. Some very crisp kickboxing and boxing, and a really, really strong fight again. And again, Kerry-Ann Vernon, a 2-time Irish champion now. She was kind of pleading with the camera, like, come on girls, like more, we need more competitors to fill out these brackets and fill out these divisions. And I think she was kind of grateful just for that there was someone else to face. But we'll see Kerry-Ann Vernon again. We'll see. I think she will probably be inching closer towards a pro career in the next year or so, would be my guess. But also very interested to see Emer Darcy coming back again later this year.
Yeah, she was very competitive in that fight, Emer Darcy. It was very kind of nip and tuck on defeat, Caoilte, but it was basically the takedowns from Kerry-Ann Vernon that kind of sealed the fight for her this time around.
Yeah, and we would have, I guess, as Andy said, we haven't got a chance to see Kerry-Ann's grappling as much. But this time she was listening to the corner, and it was like Leah was using a controller. It was fantastic. And listened to the corner perfect and implemented that game plan very well to get the win. And it was a war, but it was definitely the grappling that made the difference.
Yeah, big time. Next, we're looking at Nicholas Shiopu versus Aaron Boyle. That was a fantastic fight as well. Andy, what did you think of all of that?
I missed that fight.
So there you go, Caoilte. Missed it too. That fight was Shiopu took that fight from SBG Nace, I believe. I've seen so many fights today, so please forgive me.
Yeah. So we're looking at the Blue Plus division. So with Nathan McGillian and Conor McCarthy. Another fight that I was back here interviewing someone for, but I saw the replay, and my God, the head kick from Conor McCarthy. Look, we talked about Conor McCarthy a number of times in the podcast. He continues to be a serious amateur to keep an eye on and a name to remember. This just kind of further cements that for me. A very impressive performance once again for the young man, and a very bright future by the looks of things. Yeah,
I mean, like, I was calling that, and it was an excellently set up head kick, Caoilte, and I think the ground and pound was fair. The referee came in, it was a good stoppage, an excellent performance for Conor McCarthy, and I think in that fight, I feel that Nathan McGilligan did perform quite well in the first round. It was a close first round. It was a close-ish second round as well. Conor McCarthy separated kind of from the clinch exchanges against the cage, and it was an unbelievable, the knockout of the weekend really, and then the shout out for the Auld Triangle as well for Conor McCarthy for extra bonus points. So fair play, Conor.
Fair play to him. Yeah, no, that was fantastic the way he set that up, and he came in here afterwards and he was telling myself and Andy that he was actually he was drilling that out the back beforehand before he went in, because he was fighting a southpaw and he's like, he might dip, and lo and behold, what he was drilling ends up working out, and perfect finish, absolutely fantastic. I'd say that'll get a lot of traction now for Conor. Yeah, Danny was in the corner for me for Nick Rubino versus Marco Cardillo as well. That was also in the Blue Plus middleweight division, and that was a good fight too. I think Marco was looking to try and press the takedown, and Rubino kind of got control into kind of half guard, postured up, landed some big shots there. Cardillo was trying to control the posture. Ultimately, that fight came close to stopping a couple of times. The referee could have came in, though. The referee did give Cardillo loads of chances there, Caoilte. I'm not sure if you caught that one. I did, yeah. It was there would have been an argument to, I'd say, stop that a little sooner. He took a lot of damage, but he kept fighting. He was trying to dig deep and get out of them bad positions, but it just wasn't enough for Marco. But wow, what a performance otherwise, to get that finish.
Brilliant performance as well. Just checking up here, we're going to get Caoilte's opinion here on the result of David Zamora versus Kevin Keogh. I know you were you're in your element for this finish, Caoilte.
Fair play to him. I'm a big fan of David Zamora now after today. He's an Auld Triangle choke right in front of us. Can't beat it. Fair play to him.
He gives the people what they want, really.
That's it. That's what we came for.
Exactly. Moving on then again, Brian Manning versus Vasilius there now in the middleweight blue plus division. Mantis was excellent in that fight as well. I thought Manning did fight well in spells as well, but we look at it was Mantis that came out on top, and that was an excellent win, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a beautiful moment as well. He had his partner and his child with the gold medal around, so it was just a lovely and a great performance.
Yeah, perfect. Anything else that stands out to you for today, Andy?
Well, the last one, just another winner in the blue plus division, which is, so they've 3 divisions this year, and the blue plus is the highest one, the ones that be looking to go and fight in international competitions. Trevor McKengo was back after a spell of inactivity, came back against Parke in a mad fight where he really hit him hard. Poor Keller somehow, we were chatting to Jack McGuire thereafter. I think he's like 43 or something like this. Wow. Kind of has his wife and kids at home, and like the day job, he fair play to him for stepping in there, and he took some serious shots and he got back up, and that was the second round. He got dropped and took some follow-up shots, but then he somehow just found a way to make it a fight still, ended up on top, ended up in mount, had him flattened out, and I don't know who won the round. We haven't seen the scorecards, but a great fight. Well, it was a heavyweight fight. Yeah. It was. I think they were both knackered by the end of it, and probably during it too. But it was an entertaining one, back and forth. And then I suppose the last one that we can highlight is, they've created these 3 divisions, where one of the divisions, the yellow, is for people who've come through the Winter Warrior, the Train Alta program, and are really just starting to fight. And we had 2 lads out there, Owen O'Connell and Russ Georgie, who just went hell for leather. Like it didn't look like a yellow division fight. We were on the commentary, it was the final fight of the day, and it was just wild. It was madness. They kept the pace for a full 3 rounds. Fair play to the 2 lads. I was very impressed. I wasn't expecting much at the start of that fight, and I was blown away.
Well, I saw those 2 lads go at it at the start of the fight, and I was like, no way can they keep up that pace, Caoilte, but they kept up that pace right until the final bell, and it was an unbelievable performance. And that fight was actually supposed to happen earlier on today, and then it got moved, and it was like it was fate really that it was moved to last, and then we got to see a fight like that. Really,
it was perfect. Some of the striking exchanges were just so chaotic, and like they were landing clean shots that it looked as though someone could have gone out at any moment, really. And then the grappling was just as competitive. It is probably the perfect way to end the day. And fair play to 2 lads, they're only getting started in their MMA career, and now they get to kind of take the spotlight out there in that last fight of the day and put on a great performance.
Brilliant stuff. Another successful event for IMMAA. Credit to everybody involved as well.
We forgot, we have one thing I think we do have to mention, I think we probably glossed over a little bit, is I think that a lot of credit has to go because the youths are on as well.
Yes.
So, obviously we'll be speaking about the juniors and seniors, but the youths is they're fantastic. They're the future of the sport in Ireland. They're the ones that are going to be coming through and competing in a few years' time in the adults. But we have to give a big shout out to them because there were so many. There was more youths here than there was juniors and senior entries, and they'll be preparing to go off to Abu Dhabi later in the year with Danni, Alan as coaches then. So great stuff there as well, and it's good to give them a bit of a limelight.
Oh, absolutely. Anything else to say before we wrap up, Andy?
No, it's been an absolute fucking pleasure to spend some time with all of us together, the Auld Triangle, live in the flesh. It's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed this weekend. It's great to do. We're probably, who knows when the next time we'll do a live podcast.
You have to come over. You have to come over to Canada the next time, lads.
Yeah, we'll do a world tour.
Definitely during the summer.
But just a solid weekend of fights. Very much looking forward to what's next in Irish MMA. We've got Kiefer Crosbie coming up. We've got Leah McCourt coming up. We've Cage Conflict, a brilliant card coming up. We've talked about all that previously in the show. And I had a great weekend.
Yeah, I had a fantastic weekend. It was a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to meet the 2 lads as well. Like I said, it won't be the first time, but I don't know when the next time is going to be. But it was a great experience for me as well, just to get to see everybody, get to meet everybody. Sean Denny behind the camera as well. It was great to meet him too. So legend Sean.
I have to apologise as well, because if you just shift to your left there and I go here, I dropped the ball by not wearing white. We could have had the Irish flag. It's my fault. I'll learn from this mistake and come back better.
That's it. That's all we can do. Adapt and overcome. And we will see you for the next episode of the Auld Triangle. We'll be back in our normal setting. It was great to do this live and in person today with the lads. Thanks to Kiefer Crosbie for joining us today on the podcast. Also, thanks to Lee Hammond. It was a lovely surprise to see him come in and just have a few words with us as well after picking up the prospect of the year for SevereMMA, and he's fresh out with a tough house as well. So, you know, exciting future for Irish MMA, lads. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks to everybody for watching along. A little bit of a different episode this week. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We'll be back again next time. Hey, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel, give us a follow, give us a rating on all of our podcast platforms as well. You can find us everywhere, the Auld Triangle. And for now, for Andy Stevenson and for Caoilte de Barra, I'm Ian O'Neill, and we're out.
Wait. Caoilte, see us out.
Caoilte, see us out.
Agus Mars Canal, Slog of all.